Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rex Newell, and I'm an antique dealer in Illinois and Indiana. And I've been in the business for a quarter of a century as of last year. And I do these presentations and appraisals for several reasons. One is to let you know what is collectible today, and also maybe tell you a little bit about the item you brought in and the value of it. In the antique business today, there are many things that are collectible, from dolls to toys to cars, books, coins, you name it, somewhere, someone out there collects it. Now, because something is old, does that mean it has value? No, it doesn't. Age doesn't always give it value. There's demand, quantity, and how well something is made usually determines the value. But you know what? We better get started and take a look at some of the items you brought in today. Now, watches. Some people brought in 3 or 4 watches today, so I'll try to get them all. The average man had 5 pocket watches in his lifetime. So where does the value come in at? Number one, there's usually 3 ingredients in that. Number one is who made the pocket watch? Well, we know this is a Hampton. It says right on there. Number 2 is what material is it made out of? Is it gold? Is it sterling silver? Is it 18 karat gold? If it is, it will be marked. This one happens to be gold filled. This is called an open case, a 16 size. And number 3, the most important of all ingredients in this watch is how many jewels it is and what kind of case it is. Because usually 21 jewel pocket watches are considered railroad grade. But this is a Hampton pocket watch, probably made at the turn of the century. If I could get the back of this open, I'll try to open this up. Some of them do and some of them don't open very easily. Well, I can't get it right now. But this is most likely a 17 jewel pocket watch. This one sells in the $50 to $75 range today. Remember, the higher the jewels, what material it is determines the value. This particular one is a 12 size pocket watch made by Elgin. It looks gold, but it isn't. It's gold filled. The way you can tell is you open the back of it up, and there'll be an imprint right in here, and it will tell you what material it is. Usually it'll say filled, which is gold filled, or 14 karat, or 585. That's the other terminology for 14 karat gold. Or if it's 18 karat gold, it might say 750. That's also 18 karat gold. This is most likely a woman's watch that she wore around her neck. That's why the chain's on there. Women wore these type of watches. And today, non-gold, this watch would sell for around $100 to $125. In gold, $200 to $300 for this watch. Now, wristwatches, they need not to work to have value today. How many of you have ever had a garage sale and someone will always come up to you and say, hey, do you have any wristwatches for sale? The reason they ask that is because they are highly collectible today. And like I say, they need not to work. The parts can always be readily available to be fixed, and they need not to be a Rolex in order to carry a lot of value. Of course, the best watch made in the world is called the Patek Philippe. Then you have Cartier's, Rolex, Vacheron, Constantine's. One of the hottest wristwatches today is a La Cultra. And if they're a chronograph, that's a plus. They're in hot demand too right now. But if you have wristwatches, don't put them in a garage sale until you have someone look at it. I have a motto, and this is mine. Check it out before you throw it out. It doesn't hurt to ask. You know how many people call me and say, Rex, we want you to come over, but the house is a mess, we're moving, and I get there and there's already a dumpster and it's full? Happens every single day. Every day it happens. What you might think has value, it just might. But it's the things in this business that you think have zero value that tend to have a lot of value. Somewhere where you live, on your block, someone has something that's rare. And I classify something that's rare, that's something that is in the value of $2,000 plus that they know have zero idea of the value. So check it out before you throw it out. It doesn't hurt to ask. This is made It's marked Nippon, hand-painted Nippon. And this really is Nippon. There's a lot of copies of it. Copies were made in the 1920s. Real Nippon came out in the 1890s. It was made until around 1920s. Then it was reissued in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 70s. This is hand-painted, probably around 1895 to 1905. Value on this set's around $50 today for this set. Some of them can get in the hundreds of dollars, though. This is a little bit more of a plain set. Other glass from the turn of the century. A little surprise in there. I like surprises. And if you tell me that you're a pack rat, you know what that is to me? That's music to my ears. I like to hear that. This is called souvenir glass. This is easy to date. It's marked right on there, 1904. Most of these were for the fairs. Columbia Expedition, the Seattle Fair, 1904. This particular one, 1904, the St. Louis, which this is probably in the $30 to $35 range for this. This is called souvenir glass, cranberry glass. The smaller one is from the Columbia Expedition. It's marked 1893 on there. And this little mug right here is around $25 to $30. They made a lot of these. Even though this is over 100 years old, they made quite a few of these. The rarest of all would probably be the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair. And in objects of value in World's Fair, it's the posters that bring the most. I saw a 1934, 33, 34 poster last week, and I valued it at $2,500 to $3,500. Rare. Toys. The older the toys, does that mean the more value it has? No. On some toys, the collectors are in their 80s. They're not collecting anymore. They're getting rid of some of the items. Toys need not to be from the 1920s or 1930s. They could be from the 1950s and have a greater value. Now, this little cast iron toy, I talked to the lady that brought this in. She bought it at an estate sale. I think she said she paid $1 for the whole box. There's no markings on this toy, but it's a cast iron toy from the 1930s, probably made from one of a dozen different companies. It's a racer, and today it has a value of around $65 to $75. Not bad for $1.
She says, wake up, it's no use pretending, I'll keep still.
This is a majorette doll, a puppet, majorette, excuse me, in the box. These are quite common. This is Zippy, and this one sells for about $45 today. They made Howdy Doodies, though, which sell for $75 to $100. There's different ones that were made from this company. Now, dolls on a whole, there's another doll over there. Paul, could you bring that up for me, too? Here's how dolls came about. First, there were wax dolls. Then there were bisque dolls in the 1800s. Then there were composition dolls in the mid-1920s. Now, your French dolls are probably worth the most. Then your German dolls and American dolls. What about girl dolls? Are they worth more than boys? No. Boy dolls are worth more than girl dolls as a general rule. How about if they have an open mouth showing teeth or a closed mouth? Closed mouth would be worth more. You would think that by showing their teeth it would be worth, more. This is a bisque doll from around the 1890s to around the 1915 area, right in that period of time. So how do you identify a doll? Well, usually on the back of her neck, there will be the hallmarks on who made this doll, or on her back. But this is a bisque doll with bisque arms and jointed legs in her original clothing. Now, I tried to find a mark on her, and all there was a mold number on her, but I'm pretty sure she's German. Value on this doll, she's about 16 inches long, and today she brings a value of around $250 to $350. If I can identify her, it could be far more than that. I will do that for you, for the lady that brought this in, if you give me your phone number. Why would I want to do that for her? Because I'm a nice guy? You know, I really am a nice guy. Just like anything else in business, knowledge is power. The more you know, the better off you are going to be. So the next time I see one of these, I'll know exactly what it is. This little tray could be for cigarettes, but this one is marked on the bottom, Occupied Japan. So we know when this was made. This was made between 1946 and 1952. That's when we occupied Japan. They made quite a few items from that period of time, and a covered little container like this would probably be in the $20 to $25 range for this. Mark Occupied Japan.
Okay, we purchased this at an antique market in Nice, in the old part of Nice, in March of 1998. And what they told us was that it was of course, a beach scene painted in the 50s, and they felt that it was in Cannes, in the area of Cannes, in the south of France.
Sure. This is a French scene, and the artist is Babette. I don't recognize the name. I'm not quite sure if he's a listed artist. And what I mean by listed artist is someone where their works have sold at a gallery, a major gallery, or their autobiography has been written about them. And that tends to bring a little bit more money. It is a beach scene, though, and they told you it was done in the 1950s.
They thought with the colors.
I think it's done in the late 50s, early 60s,
Okay.
is my opinion. And I see on the back you paid $150 US. Let's say he's not a listed artist. I would say it's worth around $225 to $250.
Okay.
And if he is a listed artist, it could be a little bit more, but I tend to believe around $200 to $250.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing that in.
Sure. Welcome. Thank you.
My mother inherited this from my father's oldest sister, who came from Germany. My grandfather was born in 1866 in Bavaria. And I knew from doing a little research that this was a Czechoslovakian artist. And I don't know how to tell if it's a print or if it's real.
It looks like a print to me.
Darn.
Usually the way you can tell a print is through a magnifying glass. If you look at it through there, you'll see dots. That's a dead giveaway of a print. When I looked through a magnifying glass, I didn't see dots. But what I think it is a painted print, which they did that. Some of those are called chromolithographs when they do something like that. I want to look at it a little bit better in a little bit better light, though. But even though if it is just a print, it's got a great look to it with children. And I believe that being that it is a print, it has a value of $150 to $200 today.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that in. And where did you acquire this from?
My husband Bud and I bought it at an antique shop in Kentucky about 10 years ago. And I simply bought it because I thought it was cute. It sits in a corner of my utility room, and we put dirty clothes in it.
Wow. That's actually a child's washing machine. You know, I mean, there's a lot of different companies that made those. Dot is one of them that comes to my mind off the bat that made washing machines similar to that, very close. Most of those were made in the late 30s, 1940s.
It says Montgomery Ward on it.
Does it say
on the
Montgomery
bottom.
Ward on it? That's kind of neat. It's been a while since I've seen anything from Montgomery Ward's. But being that it is from Montgomery Ward's, and it's not too bad a condition. They didn't sell for a lot of money when they were new, and today they're not a lot of money, but one from Montgomery Ward would probably bring anywhere from $100 to $200 today.
That's nice.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that in.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, fine, thank you.
And where did you acquire this from?
I acquired that from my mother.
This is a World Expedition, Columbia Expedition paperweight from the World's Fair in 1893. Saw one of these 2 nights ago. A lady had one of these.
I thought it was one of a kind.
No, that's what a lot of people hope for. But you know what? It is collectible. And I believe she told me that she saw one for sale in an antique shop for around $50.
Oh.
Right around there. Did you think it was a little bit more?
Oh, I had hoped it would.
Well, it's worth around $50 today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
And what can you tell me about this?
I went to an auction and I got a box lot and that item was in it. And before the auction was over, a lady came up to me and said, "Do you want to sell that?" So then I immediately became curious about it.
It is Italian, and it's probably made in the 1940s, right in that period of time. Little bisque Italian figurine, and with a little bit of work, I could find out who made this. Let's see if I can see here. It says "Made in Italy" in here. Works of art. That's basically what it says on here. Value on it. It's got a little artist signature on there.
Yeah,
Can't quite read
I
that.
had a hard time with that.
But it's about a $20 piece.
Okay.
So we're right around there. Thank you. That went on the back end of the Case tractor. So what this is a mold that made this cast into plaster, and then from then on, they probably cast it into iron. You told me you paid several $100s for this?
Yes.
I think you really got a good deal. If I was to have this for sale at one of the shows that I do, I would probably, you know what, I'd go out a little bit on the limb and I'd ask between $2,000 and $2,500 for it. I think it's really a good piece and it's rare. And you know what, on a good day at an auction, it could even do better than that. It has the capability of even going higher than that. What a great piece.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that in. You
Yes.
got a good deal.
Yes.
China. Now this looks like a Shirley Temple picture, doesn't it? It's not. Made during the same period of time, 1930s. Shirley Temple had one that was very similar to this with her picture on it. And those tend to be worth around $25 to $30. This one is in the $10 to $15 range for this right here. Depression glass, it is collectible. Do you know the depression glass usually was free? So today, value comes with pattern and color. The amber color is a little bit soft right now, but your pinks and greens are okay. And where did you acquire your lamp from?
I picked it up at an antique shop.
Did you? Did you know it was a lamp when you bought it?
Yes.
And what did you learn about it?
It's one of 8 castings by Fabrication Francais, made in about 1910, 1920. Napoleon in Exile, white metal.
White metal. It's probably a spelter metal, which is a tin alloy mixed with copper. And it is got the hole in the back for the cord that went in there. And what this lit up was this little fire right here underneath it. There's a little red bulb to imitate a fire. And it's got the stamp on the back of it. I'm sure, let me take a look at it. That's French.
Yeah, that's the French thing.
That's their French stamp that they put on that. And you say you bought this in an antique shop. It is actually in really quite good shape. Original finish, it looks like. And what did you have to pay for this at the time?
$150.
$150. I haven't seen quite one just like it, but if I was to evaluate it, I'd say it's between $600 to $800 for it.
Ooh,
You did good.
thank you.
Thanks for bringing that in.
Okay, thank you.
Hi.
Hi,
And where did you acquire this from?
this was my great-grandmother's.
Okay. Did you know that it was English?
Yes.
Okay. And did you learn anything from it that?
The only thing I know is that it was a Crown Derby and that my grandmother purchased it so that when she died or when she got ill, she would be able to go into a nursing home if they sold this. That was the story, and I go, yeah, no way, you know. But that's the
Well,
way it
nursing
was.
homes are pretty expensive today.
Yeah,
But it is
late 1800s.
late 18, I would say probably around 1885 through like 1895. And it's got their hallmark on the bottom, which is right here. No chips or cracks or anything like that. Chips or cracks hurt the value of an item drastically. If you have a Hummel that's worth $100 and you put a chip in it, it's now worth 10 to 15. So be careful. It's not of super great value, but it is of decent value, several hundreds of dollars.
Wow.
Yeah. Did you have that idea on it? Or?
I had no idea. Just something I always loved my whole life, and
I would say 300 to 400
cool,
today.
very cool.
Thanks for bringing that in.
Sure. Thank you.
It's not in good shape. It's
I
been
can-
used. That's what it was for, to keep us warm.
Okay. And what can you tell me about this?
A lot of the H's, which was my maiden name, stood for hosto, is made out of feed sacks. That's how you bought your feed for the cattle and the pigs, was in feed sacks.
And who made this?
My mom,
Your mom made this?
right.
Quilts, of course, are collectible. Crazy quilts. There's quilts that are extravagant. They are hundreds or even thousands of dollars. This one's in really rough shape, though.
Yes, it is.
You know, value on it, it's more of something that
Sentimental
a sentimental
value.
value than any kind of a value, because it's in, this is what we call pretty rough condition. But I want to thank you for bringing this in. Thank you.
Okay.
See, people always ask me, Rex, what is the rarest thing you've ever seen? Well, I've seen some rare, pretty rare things, but I think this is kind of a neat story. I went to a lady's house in Hinsdale, and I bought a painting from her, and she says, I'm going to show you something in my bedroom, but it's not for sale. Okay? So we went in there, and she had two mannequins, and they were dressed up in Civil War uniforms. And I said, where did you ever get those from? And she says, my father bought them at an auction in 1951. He paid $1,500 for them. That was a lot of money in 1951. So I said, if you ever decide to sell them, here's who you need to contact to sell these. Years went by, she called me up, she says, come on over, I got some good news for you. She said, I sold them and I took your advice. I went over there, and the Union uniform, soldier's uniform, brought $9,500. The Confederate was mint and intact, and it sold for $97,500. Then one time, a lady called me up, and she had a Charlie Russell painting. Charlie Russell's a very famous painter who did Indians motif. And I went over there, and she thought it was worth between $5,000 and $10,000. And on the back of it, it was dedicated to a man. And I said, who was that? And she says, that was my father. He was best friends with Charlie Russell. And I went, whoa, okay. And that painting sold for $250,000 to $300,000 for that painting. So, yes, I do see it. Yes. Any other questions? No other questions? Okay, great. Did you guys enjoy the presentation? I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. And if you have any questions, take one of my flyers before you leave and feel free to call me. I make house calls every single day. Like I said before, if you tell me you're a pack rat, I love to hear that. I'll go in your attic or your basement or whatever, and I'll tell you what your things are worth and what I could pay you for them. Give me a call.